Hi everyone and welcome to a Theme Park Worldwide News Update. Now yesterday we had some of the biggest Disney parks news in a very long time, and that is that the Disneyland Resort, which is located in Anaheim, California, have unveiled plans for a huge expansion of the Disneyland Resort, including two big expansions to both of the existing theme parks, a new entertainment district, and along with that a lot of new infrastructure as well that they are hoping to do at the Disneyland Resort. Now in this video I'm going to look at all the details that we know so far. It was a big announcement. It dropped yesterday and I don't think any of us were really expecting it. I certainly wasn't. And yeah, here we are today talking about this massive news from the Disneyland Resort. Now, all of the news and information can be found on an official new website that's actually been set up by Disney called Disneyland Forward. So that's where all this information's come from. And this is kind of their long-term plan, if you like, for the Disneyland Resort. This isn't something that's going to happen within a few years. This is something what they're lining out for the future of the resort. And it's really nice to think that they're thinking sort of long term. The park's been shut now for over a year. Both of the parks at the Disneyland Resort over a year because of the pandemic. And they've said that it's gave them time to really think about what they want to do in terms of expansion. Because as we all know, the Disneyland Resort is landlocked. I mean, look at this Google Maps image just here. You can see just how landlocked they are. There's buildings, there's houses, there's other businesses, hotels, all the way around the resort in Anaheim. But how are they going to expand? Well, it's going to be utilising existing space, what they've already got, and also own as well, and changing kind of some of the use of some of the land what they've got. And that's what I'm going to firstly talk about in this update before moving on to the kind of attractions and theme park expansions and stuff what we could see. So yeah, the whole idea of this is to bring new attractions, experiences and infrastructure to Anaheim. Now, the reason they want to do this, of course, is to continue expanding and the tourism side of things in Anaheim. There's so many businesses that rely on Disneyland, and this is a big focus for them. Now, back in the 1990s, they worked with the city of Anaheim to come up with like a plan for the future of the Disneyland Resort. Back in the 1990s when that was done, it was great. It was working fine for them. But now, of course, move on from that 30 years, and here we are in a situation where a lot of the land what Disney had has now developed and grown and been built on. They've built another full theme park since then, of course, Disney California Adventure in 2001. More hotels, more parking. So land has started to fill up. Now, during this agreement with the city of Anaheim, basically it was kind of decided on what Disney would use some of their space for, whether that be theme parks, whether that be for car parking, and all of that was kind of decided back then. What Disney want to do now, and this by all means isn't set in stone, this is like a kind of like how it would work here in the UK, like a public sort of consultation, you know, where they're putting it forward what they want to do, and then it'll have to get approved by the city of Anaheim. So we don't know all the details, but we have a good idea of what they're looking at and want to do. So yeah, they're kind of looking to change these plans with the kind of infrastructure and what they do on their own land. Now, it's worth noting this isn't involving any public money. It's all privately funded, of course, by Disney, as it should be. And then, of course, as well, they're not looking at buying any new land. They're not looking at demolishing any existing businesses around the area. Nothing like that. It's going to be utilising what they've already got. So, yeah, let's kind of have a little look at this map here from the Disneyland Forward website. And this gives you a great idea here of exactly what they want to do. So, as you can see, that's a map of the Disneyland Resort. You've got the two theme parks, Disneyland Park there at the top, California Adventure Park there just below it. Off to the left, you've got the hotels, what you've got there as well. So and if you look at that, you can see down the left-hand side a lot of expansion. Now, initially, it kind of looked like they were looking at a third theme park to go there. However, that isn't the case. What it's going to be is an expansion of the two existing parks. You've got a road that runs down the middle of that section between the parks and where they want to build. Now, of course, they'd actually be looking at putting tunnels or bridges, most likely tunnels, underneath Disneyland Drive, which is the road, and then into the expansion pads which are on the other side. At the moment, that's parking for like the Disneyland Hotel. You've got the Paradise Pier Hotel. There's another big car park there as well. All of that looking at changing the parking situation, putting more parking in other locations to allow them for theme park expansion on that site. So that's really exciting because when it was first it came out yesterday, you know, there's a bit of mixed messages. Is it a third park? Is it expansions? It's definitely expansions, and it kind of lines up perfectly because they'll be able to do a tunnel from Disneyland Park under the road and to an expansion pad where they could have a couple of new areas for Disneyland Park, and the same as well, of course, for Disney California Adventure. So that's great. If they can go ahead with this, that's potentially maybe 3 or 4, you know, new lands, maybe even more, that could go onto that space and expand the current theme parks. Now, along with that, if we zoom into the middle area, of course, you've got Downtown Disney, which is the entertainment district. It kind of looks like to me from this, they're kind of planning to do like a second kind of entrance hub and possibly have second entrances into both of the parks. It looks to me like there's ticket booths there and just the general infrastructure by the current Disneyland Hotel to have another plaza area and have 2 more entrances going in, which would be very interesting. Of course, that would also help with crowds and take a bit of stress off the main sort of hub area where you currently go into the park. So that could be interesting. Along with that on these plans, it looks like they're possibly looking at removing the other monorail station. I mean, just a quick sort of observation of it makes you think, yeah, they've actually currently got 2 monorail stations. One of them's inside the park in Tomorrowland. The other one is kind of down near Disneyland Hotel. You know, it's as part of Downtown Disney. It looks like on this, there isn't another monorail station there. Again, these are all kind of provisional plans. Things can change. It's just a concept rendering. But if we're looking at it in them details, there's like a couple of towers that you can see there. That to me does look like it's going to be another hub, another plaza, of course, where people can head into the parks. Now, along with that as well, this is kind of, you know, why are they wanting to do this and why expand out onto this land? And that's because, of course, they've got 2 fantastic parks. Disneyland from 1955, of course, you know, it's the oldest Disney park in the world. It's the original, it's Walt's Park. And with that, they don't want to remove classic attractions. They don't want to start taking things out to put new things in. But we all know that for theme parks to grow and expand, they've got to sometimes replace classics and put new things in. With Disneyland, it's really important that they get the right balance between changing things and removing attractions. And they've basically said in this, they don't want to do that. They want to keep Disneyland and they want to keep Disney California Adventure that's been going through a multi-year regeneration anyway, and then expand off to the side, which does, as an avid Disney fan, that does make me really happy to think that, you know, they don't want to start changing too much inside the main parks, especially Disneyland that's steeped in history. They'd rather expand out onto another piece of land. So, yeah, we'll go into what sort of areas we could potentially see and what they've hinted at in just a moment. But, yeah, you know, it's all very interesting, isn't it, to see that, you know, they could be putting these tunnels in and kind of, you know, they've had to do it as 2 kind of separate expansions because you've currently got a couple of hotels that are there. You've got the Paradise Pier Hotel, which is quite a tall structure, and then as well, you've got the Disneyland Hotel as well. So, you know, putting these 2 expansions in, it kind of be on either side of the existing hotels, and they wouldn't need to demolish them. They just need to look at the parking and access operation around there, which is really interesting. Worth pointing out, a couple of years ago, they had plans to actually put a brand new hotel on part of this site. They've obviously changed their mind now, and I think we'll all agree this is a bit more exciting, having the theme park expansion. It does possibly say, though, in this that hotels could be considered. I mean, I'm thinking we could possibly see a couple of smaller hotels maybe around the edge of these park expansions possibly. Anything like that could come later down the line in these plans if things get approved by the city of Anaheim. So yeah, with Disneyland Forward, really positive to think that, you know, they want to expand instead of replacing classic attractions. Now, it's also going to give them more flexibility, and just reading the statement here from them, more flexibility within their existing properties for new lands and adventures like those underway, of course, at Tokyo Disney Sea, which is in Japan, Shanghai Disneyland in China, and other Disney parks could inspire new experiences here. In Disneyland Park, some of the areas that we could be looking at is a potential Frozen themed area. Of course, this is something what Paris are currently building, Hong Kong Disneyland, you know, so it's something that is very popular. It's a popular brand, and we could be seeing an IP like that coming in. Along with that, maybe a Tangled or Peter Pan area. Again, you can kind of make that out if you go back to the concept art here. Kind of looks like, you know, you can see definitely what would be a Tangled area and Peter Pan. Both of those are kind of described to have like some sort of boat ride, you know, like a gondola ride through the water around the area. So we could potentially be seeing like that as part of the Disneyland Park expansion. In terms of Disney California Adventure, of course, the second gate park that opened in 2001, areas that we could see in there, possibly Zootopia. Again, that's that's currently under construction at Shanghai Disneyland. Another one from Shanghai is Tron, and that's also under construction at the Magic Kingdom in Florida. So we could possibly see something like that, or maybe even Toy Story Land coming in as well. Again, this isn't sort of set in stone for these lands. We'd find out more about that in the long term, but this is kind of, you know, they're planting the seeds, what they would like to do, and kind of, you know, it gives the planners a bit of a, they can look at other parks, what Disney own, and look at them areas and think, yes, you know, we'll allow this expansion to take place. It'll help with jobs, it'll help with the local economy in Anaheim, and the whole sort of California area certainly attracts people in because of Disneyland being there. So really exciting in terms of the theme park expansion. I love the fact that, you know, they're looking at putting in some tunnels like under the road, and it just keep it really immersive, wouldn't it? Like you go through the steam tunnel and then out into another big expansion area. And I think it'd be very clever of them actually putting in a second entrance. I know that's probably something that a lot of people find quite interesting because, you know, a lot of people do class when it's got multiple entrances as more of an amusement park rather than a theme park. However, I don't think that would be the case with this, as the parks would be kind of a funny shape, wouldn't they? You know, especially with Disneyland, kind of a big circle, and then this expansion off to the side. I don't think there'd be any issues, in my opinion, with putting in a second entrance, especially if it was all themed in to the new lands, what they want to put into place. So really exciting stuff. But that wasn't all from the Disneyland Forward project that's been announced. Oh no, they're also looking at putting in like a new entertainment district, kind of inspired a little bit by Disney Springs. Now, kind of looks like this is going to be a completely separate project to the current Downtown Disney, what they've got in Anaheim. This is going to feature restaurants, possible hotels, live music, shopping, ticketed shows, and other theme park experiences, all modelled after Disney Springs. So this is going to actually be located on another site, kind of away from the main part of the resort, on another site what Disney also owned, that they're going to be changing the use of, or hoping to change the use of. And that's the thing with this project. You know, they're not looking at putting in, demolishing anything else or taking, you know, any more land. That isn't what they're looking at doing here. It's changing the use of existing land, which, you know, you'd think kind of they'd be able to do already, wouldn't you really? If they own that land, you'd think, oh, if they want to do something, a massive company like that, they'd be allowed to, but it's certainly not the case. They've got to go through all the relevant permissions, you know, to get it right. So yeah, fingers crossed for them. I really do hope that all of this does plan out for them, especially the theme park expansions, allowing them to keep the classics in the parks. Along with that, more infrastructure improvements. You've got to think, if they're taking away quite a lot of parking, especially, you know, across Disneyland Drive, they need more parking. So what Disney did quite a few years ago now, they acquired a piece of land kind of off to the right hand side, you know, if you're looking at it here from Google Maps, and they acquired a piece of land, and then they also bought out a hotel, and they demolished that with a hope of actually putting in like an elevated walkway, crossing over the road and into the Disneyland Resort. However, that didn't happen. They actually scrapped that because there was a lot of sort of issues with local businesses saying that it would bypass their businesses and all that kind of stuff. They are hoping to bring that back, but they're looking at possibly integrating it more, you know, into the existing road structure, it seems like, so they could, other businesses aren't going to miss out and that sort of thing. Because, yeah, this isn't just to help Disneyland, this is to help the whole Anaheim resort area grow in the future, especially after the pandemic. You know, they're going to need the tourism, they're going to need the boost, and I just really hope this does go ahead. So yeah, the biggest news out of all this, the two huge expansions that could see multiple new lands coming in, of course, possible new accommodation, entertainment area, and you know, for anybody who thinks about infrastructure, it's also very important for them to expand. You've got to think about parking and pathways and infrastructure, and that is certainly something what they're thinking of too. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts on all of this massive announcement by the Disneyland Resort. You can see all of this on an official website that's been set up, DisneylandForward.com, so it's worth checking out. I'll put the link to that down below in the description. You can check it out. There's lots of different bits on there to see. Not really any different information to what I've shared for you here, but I imagine that's going to stay updated as more comes out about this. There's no sort of time frame. Like I say, I'm not expecting this to be like a 5-year plan, more a 20-year plan in total or something like that, you know, what could expand over multiple years. But it's exciting. They've got plans in place, and let's hope the city of Anaheim, fingers crossed, will approve all of this to go ahead, and they can start work at least on some of it, and maybe even a possible expansion to one of the parks first instead of doing it all in one go, which I definitely don't think they would do. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts, and thanks for joining me for another news update here on Theme Park Worldwide. That leaves me with one final thing to say. Get out there, keep on riding. See you in the next video.